All right, Sally, you're on.
All righty, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I am going to turn this right over and hope you guys are ready to get going here, but no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jackie to get started, and then I will get you right after here in a little bit. So Jackie, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
All right, thank you, Sally. Thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate you guys joining us on a Monday evening, and we have an hour set up for this, and we are going to get through everything for you guys for your season. So let me get my screen shared right here. Let's see. Okay. All right. So can everyone see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So we're going to start. I just want to do a quick intro with what our primary goals are. Every year we have the same goals that we try to improve on, and we definitely want to make sure that we're hosting a first-class state championships for you. We're providing support for our member schools and coaches, and we are here to champion the Compete with Class program initiative throughout the state. So here's a little bit of contact information for everyone. I am in charge of swimming and diving at the NMAA. Several of you have contacted me throughout the last few months, just asking general questions or just kind of wanting to know what's going on with our season and when we're getting started. But this is my contact information here. You can email me, you can call me. I do have Sally's information here as well. Sally is very good at answering a lot of our questions that we have come through our office, and a lot of our questions get filtered on to Sally as well, because she does know exactly what is going on during this time of COVID. So we will get you the answers. One of us will for sure, if we can't answer it. So I'm going to introduce Sally Marquez right now. She's our executive director, and she's here to answer any questions and go over a few guidelines with you that we need to have for this season. So go ahead, Sally.
Welcome everybody. I just saw in the chat that some people are having a hard time getting on. Dane, I don't know if you want to answer them back. They probably didn't register and are still trying to get in. So we'll go ahead and get started. And some of you that are on, you may have questions from people who aren't able to get on as quick as possible. But anyway, make sure you ask questions. You can put them in the chat. Nate and Dana are watching the chat for us. And also, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question as well. Hopefully I'll get to everything that we have here. First off, a little different this year. As you know, I have asked many of you and your athletic directors to send in what is going on with your swimming pools. We have had some issues with the availability of practice and or meets. So with that, Jackie will get on that when we talk about the dates. But as you guys are aware, and I just want to go up front, that we have moved swimming and diving back 2 weeks, and the state championships back 1 week. And Jackie will give you those dates, but we did that because of the availability of pools. And for you guys at this point right now to get started and trying to figure out how you're going to make practices and meet works within your county's colors and what they have. We do not go by the color of the counties, but I know a lot of you have city pools which do go by the color of the counties. So you must need to work within their guidelines as well. With your meets, they are going to be smaller meets. We are doing that right now in cross country, and they have been fantastic events. Even though you guys are used to those multi-school, a lot of school meets, having 2 or 3 or 4 people, teams in a meet only, a try, has worked really well in cross country, and it will do the same for swimming and diving. You need to make sure that masks are worn by everyone in attendance on the deck. And then of course, when they get into the water, you may want to have a plastic bag or something for them to put their mask in as they swim. When they get done, then they put the mask back on prior to leaving the pool. So mask will be required to everyone. And also social distancing the whole entire time. I know sometimes with teenagers that's real hard, but as much as to the extent possible that we need to social distance. We're actually, every athlete is going to be responsible for their own water, their own hydrating water bottles during the whole season. You might have no use of the water fountains. You could have those fountains that, of course, they go ahead and fill up their water bottles or jugs, but they need to make sure they're using their own water bottle. Also refraining from spitting, make sure they're doing the hand hygiene. Also making sure that they're not sharing any clothes, any towels, anything, that it's all individual. So your athletes need to figure out how they're going to do that and how you guys are going to do that. Make sure everything that they own, that they're wearing, that they're using are totally separated from teammate to teammate. It is recommended that no more than 4 athletes share a lane at a time, alternating 2 athletes at one end. They should never be on the ends at the same time. But once again, you need to work within, those are our guidelines, but you need to work within your city guidelines or your pool guidelines. So make sure you get with your city and your pool, and we will work with you any way you can. I mean, if you can open this up within your county or your pool, then that is fine with us. Just make sure you're always following the governor's health orders that is going on with your pool. So we will leave that on you to make that determination. I don't want to micromanage because everybody is so different, but just make sure you're communicating and following all the guidelines. During a meet, you should collaborate with all attending schools so that they know what is going on, what to be expected. Also, the officials coming in, what is the entrance? Where do they park? Our officials will be telling themselves and asking themselves the COVID safe practice questions. Are they, take their temperature? Are they sick? Do they feel sick? Have they been coughing? Have they been exposed? All of that. So the officials will be doing that prior to the meet. It is up to the meet host to make that determination, what you want to occur when you get there. What we are finding out in the other sports is there's some schools that want to do it themselves when you get to the pool and get to your facility, and there's other athletic directors that are leaving it on the other schools or on the officials prior to going. So make sure you talk to your athletic director how they want to do the COVID safe practices when it comes to contact tracing and asking those questions. Make sure also, as you guys know, a lot of you are teachers, and the ventilation is very critical when it comes to swimming and diving. And make sure you coordinate the warm up and the cool down. So you as the practitioners understand these guidelines as to what is to be safe. And we trust that you're going to work within these guidelines. But like I said, and like I've told cross country as well, every course is different, every pool is different. You're the practitioners, work within your guidelines and just do what you know is going to be safe practices. And you have heard me, my little slogan prior to us starting to compete was, we're going to play sports again, New Mexico. Now it's, we have a start. Now, how are we going to finish? And finish is going to be dependent on how we do the governor's health orders at this time. Any equipment, make sure you sanitize. Just make sure that we're not hanging around the facilities. We're leaving the facilities right away. There probably will not be any, and there should not be any award ceremonies, a team races, what's going on in cross country. And I keep using that because it's very similar. They're running the races, then the team's leaving, and then afterwards, if medals or the team results or everything are being sent to those coaches afterwards. So make sure everything, just electronically send results. Facility rules, just communicate. That's all there is. I don't want to, like I said, I'm not going to micromanage you guys because you guys know swimming and diving better than anybody else, but I know that you understand these COVID safe practices. I've seen some things come in the chat, Dane. I don't know if I need to answer any of them or
So
if
there was one that says, should that be never more than 2 athletes at the end of each pool?
that's correct. That's correct.
Or at each end of the pool, sorry.
At each end of the pool, right. We shouldn't have 2 hanging there at the end of the pool. Just make sure they're moving at all times, those 4 in a lane. Any others?
Nope, the other one was a private chat that I accidentally responded to publicly, but it was about vaccines.
Okay. Okay,
Thanks.
go ahead. Next, Jackie.
Okay.
And then one thing again, Jackie's going to take over from here. So I just want to reiterate before Jackie takes over and tell you up front, as of today, as of right now at 5:30, we have not been approved for state championships. And I just want to make sure that you are aware of that. That's even in fall sports. We have not been approved. I set some other things up today. We should get word about that tomorrow. Where the state championships are, the Department of Health and the governor's office are having a difficult time with it. It's because we are competing outside our region. So you need to make sure you stay within your region, and I'm trying to get approval for us to go outside the region. So in the event that we cannot have state championships, we will have some type of culminating regional meet. We will have another meet. We're just not going to stop. So we will have something for you. We're trying to work at that right now. I'm still hopeful we'll have state championships, but Jackie's going to talk about some of the state championships and the timing, but I just wanted to get that to you up front. Any questions on that at this time? All right, Jackie, take it away.
All right. We have a few important dates here. We have obviously today, March 15th, you guys are all here joining us for this rules clinic. This was a mandatory clinic, so thank you for being here. Monday, April 5th will be the first day of practice. That means Saturday, April 10th will be your first competition date. On Friday, May 7th or Saturday, May 8th, your district meets may take place. And on Sunday, May 9th at noon, that's a Sunday. So make sure that you guys have your state entries due to us in the event that we are getting that far into the season and we have all the okays by everyone to host this state meet. I would need your entries due by noon that day. That's a little bit different from in the past, and that is because we will need entries a little bit earlier so we can get started on everything so we could plan for our state meet. Thursday, May 13th, that would be the NMAA Girls State Swimming and Diving Championships. And then on Friday, May 15th, that would be the NMAA Boys State Championships Swimming and Diving.
And Jackie, there is
And actually, I think that's actually Saturday. I'm sorry about that. I just noticed that it's Saturday, May 15th would be the Boys State Championship. I apologize for that.
So there's a question in the chat that says, will you be alternating boys and girls so both compete on Saturdays or only boys gain to swim on Saturdays?
So the way it's going to be on Thursday, the girls will do all of their events. I apologize if I'm jumping ahead. Can you hear me? Because again, the internet's unstable. So it will be all girls on Thursday. That includes diving, and then all boys Saturday, and that includes diving.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions, Dana?
Somebody said I was unable to hear that. Can you repeat?
Go ahead, Jackie. I gotta go in and out my cable here.
So what Sally said was on Thursday for the girls state championships, that would be just girls and it would be all diving and all swimming taking place. And then on Saturday, May 15th, that would be all of the boys state championship events, and it would include diving as well. So it would just be a one-day event for both of those days.
And then there's another question that says by region, is that by our assigned district?
If that took place, that would be for the state meet. So that if we are able to host the state meet, that would be, and I think I'm a little confused on that. I think just our state meet would be everyone combining, but I think if it was by regions for your district or after that, Sally would have something for you guys later on in the season based on where you guys would compete.
Right, guys, as far as the region is concerned, that's just new. We want to make sure we have a culminating event. We are working right now to have a state championship. So that is my plan B. And if I have to go to plan B, I'll make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on immediately.
And then will those dates hold the same if they're regional instead of state?
Will the what hold the same? I'm
Will
sorry. Oh, the dates. Yes, the date. Well, maybe if we have a smaller meet, again, it depends. It will probably be on Saturday and not on the Thursday. Hopefully we can put the boys and girls together if it's smaller in a regional format. But I just need to still work through that, and I'll let you know at this point. So I would keep the Thursday, Saturday as of right now, but also depends on if we go regionals, what pools are we going to use and their availability. So at this point, we do have academy for our state championships on Thursday and Saturday.
And then the last thing in the chat, some APS graduations are held on the 13th and 15th. How will championship meets, if held, work around graduation?
We do not work around graduation, and I know that's hard for you guys to hear, but every year we have on this weekend, we always have graduations, and we have state tennis, golf, track, baseball, softball. So hopefully the times work out, but we would not be able to accommodate everybody's graduation. So again, a lot of times this has always been an issue, but we have this problem every year. You guys just are not used to it because you're done by graduation, but the spring sports, we have this problem every single year. So we'll see when it comes towards that, we'll figure out where we're at with it.
And then you may be getting there, but are the academic requirements based on first semester?
So academic requirements are based on the first semester. If they were not eligible at first semester, then you would be going at the 6 or 9 weeks, whatever grading period your school is on. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, so we're going to continue with the NMAA policies and procedures. Sally just asked about or answered a question about the eligibility for academics. And one thing I want to point out for this year is the physical examination. So every kid do need to have a physical on file with the school. The 2019-2020 physicals already on file with your school may be used for this season. But if you have a new kid coming into your sport and they're going to be participating, you will need to advise them that if they get their physical before April 1st, they will probably need to get a new one for next year if they do plan on participating in the fall by the end of the year. But usually insurances only provide you with pay for one insurance per year. So you want to make sure that you advise them that maybe it's safe to get it after April 1st this year. So that way it'll be good for the entire school year, starting with 2021-2022 school year, if that makes sense to everyone. Sport specific rules and regulations. So again, we have one classification for swimming and diving. Your official start date for practice is April 5th, and the competition requirements remain the same this year. Your individual and your team, you still have to have 5 days of practice before competing in a meet. So your meet limitations this year for teams and individuals It is limited to 4 regular season meets prior to the district meet. So you will have 4 regular season, your district meet, and then if we have the state meet, you'll also have that if they qualify. Coaching licensure. Basically, anyone working with your team needs to have a coaching license. This includes a volunteer, any adult participating with your team, any unpaid or paid individual, they do need to have their license. The first aid course is now required, so you need to have that in order to obtain your coaching license, and the NFHS concussion course is still a requirement as well. Compete with Class, that's our Compete with Class initiative that still holds up even through all of these times. We need to make sure that we are continuously working with our member schools to promote our sportsmanship promote better sportsmanship during these competitions. So we just want to encourage everyone to be positive during competitions, especially as we navigate through this new territory this year, because it might be a little frustrating, it might be a little different, and we all just want to stay positive and encourage everyone during this time. Just remember, the coach sets the tone during competitions, so please make sure you focus on your team and make sure that you are competing with class, following all the NMAA COVID-19 guidelines and staying positive throughout the competitions.
And Robert Ray, you've got your hand up if you want to lower your hand and unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I asked in chat as well, but does that 4 meet count include club meets? Can you hear me?
That does include club meets. So they'll have 4 meets. So if they have a club meet, from my understanding, club is not going on at this point because of the pool availability. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but 4 plus district plus state, that will include club.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay, just a regular season reminder. We just want to make sure that everyone attending the meet is make sure your team is following all the COVID-19 guidelines. Do your part to ensure everyone's safety and be mindful of the meet host and make sure you follow all rules they have in place for hosting a meet. This season, you might find that you may be attending one meet in a different area, and it might be a county pool, it might be a school swimming pool, and the rules might change from one facility to another. So you want to make sure that when you're attending the meet, if that host has given you their requirements and everything, and they're following the COVID-19 guidelines through the NMAA as well, you just need to make sure you're following all rules when attending. Again, I wanted to throw this back up there. I always do this. Just here's my information again, my contact info. So if you guys have any questions throughout the season, you guys can just let me know. If you have not been receiving any of my emails, which I'm pretty sure you all did because you guys got the registration information for this clinic tonight. But if you still aren't receiving my emails, just let me know and we will add you to the list. But here's my contact info and here's Sally's info. Does anyone have any questions for us?
So before we get to questions, I saw one in the chat. It would, if they're going out of state to compete after April 5th, April 5th is when the 4 meet will start. So if they're going out of state to compete in a club meet, they will count towards that 4 that they have. All righty. One thing that was not in the slides that I should mention. This year, it's about it's swimming, it's about competition, it's about the social emotional well-being, and everybody always is focused on state. I know it's a little bit different because with swimming and diving, it's making sure you're having that time and how you're going to qualify. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this information out, and then Jackie will follow up with more information. But due to the limit of numbers that we have in the swimming pool, if we have a state meet, the top 16, there will be a provisional time, and the top 16 will qualify. So not if there's 20 people who make the provisional time, we will only take the top 16. And we only have a chance for 1 race. We will go 1 through 8 in the fast heat. We'll go 9 through 16 in the other heat. However, somebody in the 9 through 16 heat will be able to medal. So we will have 1 race for each of those in those events. We will get those provisional times out and we'll get more information but just so you're understanding that up front. And that's if we have a state meet. If we have to go to regions, which again, I'm hoping we don't, then we will get that information out to you once we know we have to go that direction. All righty. So we'll go ahead and take any questions that you have.
So there are a couple in the chat. The first one is the same question, kind of rephrased twice. Are there any COVID restrictions for team cheering?
You know, they have to make sure they have their masks on at all time. If they have their masks on, then people can cheer. But guys, when they start putting that mask below their nose and then under their chin, that's what we're struggling with right now, with especially football and soccer, that we have to clean up, is when they're not wearing those masks appropriately. And as coaches, you're going to have to make sure that they are doing that, whether they want to, whether they believe in it, whether you believe in it, whether it's they're tired of it. We have to do it in order to keep competing. So make sure it's over their nose and mouth. So if they are cheering and they have their masks on, I think that would be appropriate and it's fine.
And then can we schedule our own meets and where do we register them?
Dana, I didn't hear you on that one.
Can we schedule our own meets and where do we register them?
You can schedule your own meets. Again, talk to your athletic director how you want to schedule. I have not told them that we could schedule meets yet, but I will tomorrow. I'll send an email. But yes, you can start scheduling your meets, but go through your athletic director because they know the what we can and cannot and what regions and where you can and cannot go as far as within the protocols. Jackie, as far as the registration on those?
Yeah, so once you send out the email and give them the okay to register, I will follow up with everyone and send you the link for your meet registration. That's the same that you guys fill out every year, just to let me know that you guys are hosting a meet. And I will need that on file. I need to get that so that list put together so that way we can send it to the officials. And that's what I get to Dana. So once we have everything set, we will send that out. And then I will also send you out the information for direct athletics to enter your qualifying athletes on there throughout the season.
If we have districts, will the top finishers in each event fill empty spots in the championship heats?
Not necessarily. They'll need to make sure we have the provisional time on those. So you just need to start focusing in on provisional time more than anything else. I did see something about fans in the stands. At this point, the spectators in all our events are due with the color of the county. If your county is green and turquoise, and the pool can hold all the athletes and the 25% capacity or 33% capacity with spectators, then it's fine. However, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to have fans in a pool facility and social distancing the athletes. So again, it's up to you and your facility whether you can make that work. You must be a green or a turquoise county to have any spectators in an indoor facility. If we have a state championship, and I'll get this out now, we will not have fans at Albuquerque Academy. We just will not be able to accommodate fans plus spreading out the teams at the academy. So we will be having those streamed through that event. Okay.
Are there statewide limitations on bus travel to get to competitions?
That will be a school district decision. They will be following the Public Education Department transportation guidelines. But again, it's different for each of you. The issue that we're running into in all the other sports is the guidelines when it comes to a van. They're saying 1 seat in the van per person. And so it hasn't been feasible for our schools to use vans for even any small teams. But again, use your own guidelines with the school. It is permissible to have a parent drive a kid. We don't get into that, but I do know the Public Education Department, if the school's allowing that, then it is fine in that realm. But meet with your athletic director on the transportation.
With only 20 pools in the state, how can rural teams get competition scheduled?
Say that again, Dana.
With only 20 pools in the state, how can rural teams get competition scheduled?
Well, we need to make sure, and if you are hosting a meet in the region area, please allow these rural, smaller schools to get into your meets. We really need to work together. Cross country is doing this. Sometimes they're having staggered start times. So they're having, you could run a meet and then have people leave and run another meet. I know that would be very difficult. Some are having meets. I do have seen some schedules that they're talking about, and they might have a meet on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday or something. I know it's not ideal this year, but please do not forget those that do not have pools in their towns or their cities.
Do you have information as to where they can live stream meets?
Again, that would be, as far as regular season, that would be up to your school and the meet host if they're going to stream them. As far as us, when we'll run a state meet, if we're able to, we will do that on the NFHS network.
If a school district has yet to secure pool space for various reasons, is there someone at the top level that can assist?
We're trying. The top level, I guess you're talking the governor's office, and at this point, that we have to follow their orders when it comes to swimming pools. Send up some guidelines for swimming pools so that they understand that it's not just craziness, that it's going to be organized and social distance. But at this point, that's the hard part with swimming and diving, is because we need to follow the governor's orders with it. So I don't know, when you say top, I guess, yeah, above me, that's the governor's office, but I'm communicating as much as I can up there, trying to get things to open up.
Can we sanction cyber meets?
Definitely have virtual meets, swim in your pool, and then have them electronically, who swam faster. I mean, there's a lot that's going on everywhere. So virtual cyber is a fantastic idea.
Will APS be scheduling the APS meets as usual?
I do not know. I'm assuming so. Yes.
Can student athletes be transported by parents with district approval?
That would be if the district allows it, that would be district decision.
Is holding athletes in a gym still allowed in order to have fewer people on deck or to have room for spectators?
Yes, but as long as they're being monitored in the gyms and they're being social distance. So, high school kids, they're not going to sit social distance in the gym, and they're going to sit together and they're going to wander. So you just need to, as those kids, you just need to make sure they're following all the protocols. But again, spectators are only if it's a green or a turquoise county, no matter what.
And it looks like that's everything in the chat, Sally and Jackie.
All righty.
All right, well then,
I missed anybody's, let me know.
if we don't have any more questions, then I'm going to move on to our officials that are joining us this evening. So tonight we have Mr. Jeff Cotter, and we also have Mr. Jim Wyrick. So let me go back, and I'm going to get their presentation started for you.
And as Jackie's doing that, another question just came through. Is hosting a meet on a voluntary basis? Who do we get to time?
And that is with the officials. So Dana, you may want to answer that question.
So as far as timing, I'm not exactly sure how that comes about. Is hosting meet on a voluntary basis, Jackie, Sally?
Yeah, that is. Go ahead, Jackie.
Sorry, most of the schools, usually the host will set up the timers and who's going to be working. It's always done through high-tech, but I know you guys have some of your timers that are on deck, and usually those are the parents that are on deck with you guys. So that would be dependent on how you guys are setting up your meet. and being able to stay within the COVID-19 guidelines too.
And I think that's it in the chat.
Okay, so I'll just turn it over to Jeff then, and he can get started on his presentation.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Jeff Cotter. I know several of you on the call, so I've served as the state meet referee for the last 3 years, so I've met a lot of you. And I just want to mention that I'll be tag teaming this with Jim. He'll be covering the diving rules, changes, clarifications, and points of emphasis, and I'll be covering the swimming portion. So there's only a few rule changes on the swimming side from the NFHS this year. Really, they're more kind of clarifications than anything else. But the first one being in section 111, is the end wall is the vertical portion of the contiguous surface of the deck or overflow gutter in front of the starting block or platform at the touchpad end of the course. So you can see a picture there that this picture, I think it looks sort of like what the setup is at West Mesa Pool. And this right here, I'm not sure if we have any pools like this, but that gutter area in the middle there, that's kind of dark, that would not be considered. If a swimmer were to come in for a finish or a turn and touch inside of that area where it's dark in the gutter, that's not considered part of the end wall. It would have to be up on, it would have to be below here, down here where the wall is, where the black cross is, or right below the block where that, 4 6-inch wide portion of the deck, that would be considered the end wall. So I think there must have been some questions about that in previous years about what actually constitutes the definition of an end wall. So that's just a minor rule change or clarification on parts of the pool. Any questions on that? Okay, next. I think this is for Jim.
Yep, thank you. Shouldn't have sent that picture from earlier in my lifetime. Now that I'm on an actual Zoom call, you can see the age difference. But same with some of the diving. It's mostly clarifications or previous rules. So I don't think it's going to complicate our lives much this year, learning some new iterations. A dive round is a completion of one dive. That's pretty self-explanatory. The dive session really relates to what we used to call prelims, semis, and finals. And we can go to that on the next page or on the next slide. I'm gonna go back to practice dives, but this better explains in championship meets, the dives to be performed during each session of a championship are as follows. So to better explain it, this is only for 11 dive meets. That's usually only districts and state. And if it's more than 20 contestants, then you would create these, what they call now sessions, where they do 5 dives in the first session or preliminaries, and they get the competition contestants down to 20. Then you complete your next 3 dives and they move it to cut it to 16, which is the game plan for state this year. So I doubt we'll have much issue with that. It's mostly a name change. The practice dives, that also is not going to affect us. We usually don't practice between sessions, haven't usually had time to do so. So, but I will touch on practices in general as that could be coming up this year. If you're doing less meets, diving's usually held in a separate facility maybe the night before the swim finals. But if it is held in the during the meet, and the rule book states that prior to the diving event, they can get on the boards and have a couple bounces, usually a forward backwards one. But that's if they've warmed up prior to the meet. If that's not set up ahead of time, then a little longer practice session before the diving event after the 50 free would be recommended. Then the next page, Jackie, if you're controlling the slide. This goes back to the use of the word session. And I explained it earlier, in which after the preliminaries, you have 4 more than the number of places scored. That's usually 20, as I stated. If you're scoring to 16, which is common in a championship meet. And then after the semifinal session, you're cutting to just 16 divers for the finals. And that, I think, is all on the diving rules.
Okay, so this is regarding uniforms for swimming. I don't know if it's applicable to diving as well, but there's a rule change stating that the Fina mark, or it looks like a barcode on the suit, or the check mark from USA Swimming on the suit, those don't count as logos on the suit. And basically that's all that rule change is saying. And I believe there's a graphic of it on the next slide. So yeah, if you can see that there on the uniform, the USA Swimming check mark or the Fina approval logo, if those are on the suits, they're not regarded or considered, they're considered legal by the NFHS and not considered a team logo or anything like that on the swimsuit. And that's all on that one. This is regarding a rule change for timing and judging. The official time is registered by the touchpad at the end wall or stopwatch when the swimmer completes a race, and the order of finish shall be determined by integration of the official time for each lane. So those of us that are swimming officials are aware of this, that the touchpad is the commonly used official time. And then we have backup buttons. We call them pickles here, sometimes in New Mexico. And then the tertiary time is the stopwatch. So we have 3 backup mechanisms for achieving times. This is just stating that the backup system shall be operative for all races, but it should only be used in the lanes for which there are malfunctions of the automatic timing equipment, or a time is not properly recorded. So I did want to mention in the past that at meets at West Mesa, and I don't see this being a problem this year, is oftentimes at West Mesa Pool, there's 2 meets going on at one time. So everything is run with watch times. So I don't think we'll have to take that into consideration this year. If the city allows West Mesa to be used for high school meets and allows the use of their timing system over there at city pools, then we won't have to worry about the watches. But if they don't, then we will be operating strictly on stopwatch times as usual.
This one's mine, and it, make sure I'm off mute. Again, clarifying things we do already in championship meets. These are 11 dive meets, so it really affects districts and state or a regional, if that's what happens this year. And to be sure that the divers are submitted, I think usually and always have been submitted along with the swimming entries prior to the meet. And then next slide is the score sheets. That's by having both the entry and your score sheet, you're considered entered in the meet. But these are also commonly done at each meet. But one of the things that they are clarifying here, that both the coach and the participant have to sign that dive sheet before they're officially entered in the meet. So they are on the standard score sheets for diving. There's spaces available for both the diver signature and the coach's signature.
Okay, these are editorial changes in the rules. And this is a new one on me. Head timer should determine if the swimmer has touched the finished end and for the 500 or 400 freestyle, which 400 meters freestyle we don't have. We have a 500-yard freestyle. Keep a written tally of the number of laps completed by the swimmer in that lane. Usually this is done by the starter. They keep a tally sheet on how many laps are completed, and we have officials working, watching the touches to make sure that each lap is completed. So this would be a new responsibility for a head timer at the meet, and it's something that we would have to train them on. But I don't see why I guess in my opinion, you could still have the starter keeping the tally of the touches and keeping track of the number of laps completed like they usually do. And then there's, this is kind of interesting. For swimmers with disability, these are really just new illustrations of the hand signals for the start at a meet. I believe the signals are still the same, but these new illustrations make it a little more clear as to what the hand signals are actually doing. I know in the past we've had to use these at various meets, so it behooves the starter to be familiar with these signals for any meets that they're going to be working at. And this is same thing. It's just the previous one was for a forward start. This is new illustrations for the backstroke start. And those can also be found in the rule book. And points of emphasis. This is something that as meet referees, we usually do. We usually, when we're at a meet, we're communicating with the timing system operator and the meet manager software operator, making sure that we're all on the same page, that we're running the heat that we're supposed to be on. And prior to a meet, we're talking to the operators of the equipment about starts and finishes, and we're holding our official meetings, having the starters and other personnel, the starters keeping track of the order of finish, We're talking with administrative referee or administrative officials about discrepancies in the time, entry limits, all that stuff. That's really nothing new as swim officials, but they're just in the rules this for 2020, 2021, they're emphasizing that that needs to be made a priority. Establishing an official time. First point of contact when the swimmer finishes the prescribed distance of the race and touches the end wall. Touchpad is the official time. If there's a malfunction of the touchpad, it is integrated. It's an integration of the backup time, which is to be the pickle or the button or the stopwatches. I don't really have anything else to add about that. We're all familiar with how we resolve times if there's a touchpad issue. Back to Jim.
Yeah, this is reiterated again. I will make a point for this state. This is for an 11 dive championship meet. So I'd like to talk about state qualifying for diving. It's not, we use a degree of difficulty as a qualifier with the assumption that if you are able to perform more difficult dives, you're probably a more talented diver. That's not always the case, but that's how we've done it. Scoring can vary throughout, whereas swimming has it on a time, and it's a better judge of talent. And so we've been in discussion with some of the diving coaches, officials, and Jackie and Sally as to, depending on participation and depending on really if we even have a meet, if this is necessary. If it goes to a regional meet, getting to just 16 divers is not as cut and dry as it might be with swimming. So we will, we've thrown out using DD, degree of difficulty, holding and having video review to get the most, the key is to get the most talented, well-deserving divers into the state meet if they're willing to do it, or total score. But we'll be working on that over the next few weeks to iron it out. But we usually, like I said, have about 20 divers. In the last few years, that's been good because it fits right in with that 11 dive format, having a preliminary, cutting some divers and going to 16 divers, primarily for numbers control and time control, because state diving competition of 16 people might be about 2.5 hours for 11 dives. That's all my points on the diving rules and points of emphasis.
And there is a question, Robert Ray, you've got your hand up if you want to lower your hand and unmute.
Yeah. Hi, Jim. Just how many are we qualifying this year?
Well, that's we're going to have 16 at state meet if we have the state meet. If you have a regional meet, that's going to split up what usually is 20 divers qualifying.
I meant per school.
Right now it's 4.
Okay.
And that could be
Boys
also
and girls or per?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same. We're trying to be consistent. That's the same with swimming. That may be one also that could be a criteria, let's say, but those are all inputs that you've given. Diving coaches have sent to me as ways to do it, and holding virtual diving meets may be a more common practice. It may have to be our practice this year, in that if the swim meets, dual meets are smaller, may not have enough diving officials or diving judges trained to judge it, we may do that virtually this year.
Oh, okay, so this is back to me. As I mentioned before, and this is another point of emphasis, there's updated images of the official hand signals for swimmers with disabilities, and specific accommodations should be made for visual and hearing impaired, State associations may establish official training. Accommodation questions can be addressed with the NFHS. We've had to actually, I've been at meets in the past where we've used the hand signals. So as I stated earlier, it really behooves people that are going to be serving as a starter at a meet to become familiar with those hand signals. And if the coaches can help out by bringing to the attention that they have a swimmer with a disability, we can, as officials, be prepared to, when that swimmer comes up ready for their swim, we can be prepared to implement those hand signals for the starts. And I'm not gonna really go through this. I think as officials, we're all familiar with the difference of the rule variations between high school and USA Swimming. Since we're going to have an officials only clinic tomorrow, we can touch on this a little bit more in depth, but there are some differences in a few of the strokes. The way the touches are completed in the butterfly and the backstroke, and the way a turn is executed in the backstroke, which also applies to the individual medley. But we can talk more about that tomorrow in the officials clinic, unless any of the coaches want to have a question about the differences in the rules between high school and USA Swimming. Just some general rules on the swimming side, and we know all these. The swimmer has to stay in their lane until the race is finished. A legal finish is the touchpad, or what is defined now at the finish end, as we discussed that definition earlier, and they have to finish the race in the pertaining to the rule that the stroke being swum. Lap counters are provided by the host team, but they don't have to be used. They can be used in ascending or descending order. Use of tape, as usual, requires a note from the healthcare professional. Religious or medical alert medallions or medals can be visible. They don't have to be taped to the body. And see, next slide. This is just a little more about caps and suits. We talked about this briefly. About the USA Swimming logo and the Fina approval logo. Those aren't counted as an actual logo. There may be one visible logo or trademark not more than 2¼ inches. That doesn't account for, and that doesn't account for the Fina or USA logo. There can be a flag, an American flag, no larger than 2 by 3. The caps have to be a team cap. If they're not, they have to be turned inside out. The suit material has to be of a woven or knit textile material. We can't have any suits made out of anything that gives a swimmer a floating advantage. The school logo or name can't exceed 9 square inches. If there's a notice by a suit infraction notice by an official, then the coach needs to be contacted so the athlete can have that fixed or be disqualified. This is just briefly about the starter referee relationship. There's no entering the water until the referee gives the command to enter the water, and the starter actually gives the start. And then of course we can, as a starter, someone can be designated to ring the bell for the final lap of the 500. I believe that's it. So I'll just turn it back over to Jackie.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I guess I should ask Dana, are there any more questions in the chat box for us?
There is one, and I think this is more a you question or a Sally question. Can you explain the participant limit rule per team, varsity, sub-varsity, middle school?
What was the question? I'm sorry, Dana.
No problem. Can you explain the participant limit rule per team, i.e. varsity, sub-varsity, middle school?
There's no really limitation, but you have to figure out if you have some smaller teams, you can get more teams into the event. You have to think of about 100 in the area. So depending on how many swimmers you have, that will mean how many teams you have. So just think about that 100, and it could be 3 or 4 small teams or 5 small teams. But if you have large teams, it's probably going to only be a dual. So that's how you have to think about it. So there's not necessarily how many participants, just how you guys are going to work that out.
And there's nothing else in the chat.
All righty, guys. Thank you for everything. And like I said, we moved the start date back 2 weeks to allow a little bit more availability of you guys to look to see what you have for pools. Talk to the managers of the pools to make sure you can get in, and let's hopefully it works. And then I will get with you as soon as I know if we're going to have a state competition. I will let you know. If not, make sure you are aware that following week, instead of a state competition, there will be another competition for your athletes, and I will let you know how that is. Okay. So thanks for everything, guys, and remember. About social emotional well-being of kids. It's not about the blue trophy. We just need to get with kids and make sure they're okay, and give them something, a little bit of normalcy. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk later. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jim.